All right, hi everyone. Thanks for being here at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. Really excited to introduce Chris Henderson as our new Chief Soccer Officer and Sporting Director. We're going to have opening statements here from both Garth Lagerway and Chris before starting, and then we'll go to questions afterwards. When you do want to ask a question, just raise your hand, we'll get a mic over to you, either Ramondi or myself, and state your name and outlet when we go. So without further ado, Garth, take it away.
Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the trip up to Marietta. Hope nobody hit any reindeer on 75 on the way up here. All good? All right, it's always good to bond with the first line. Loosen the room a little bit. Thanks for coming. I couldn't be more excited to have Chris Henderson next to me. Chris is a proven winner, and he is one of the most decorated executives in MLS history with 9 titles to his credit. For me, I think he's one of the best talent evaluators in our league. Chris and I have a pretty distinguished track record together, going back to the Seattle days, and he's a guy who has been there from day one for me. I never forget the way Chris welcomed me on my first day in Seattle, and really created a partnership from day one there, and there's an incredibly high level of trust and comfort, as well as shared success with Chris and I working together. So couldn't be more delighted to welcome Chris aboard. And without further ado, I'll turn it out to you. Sorry, and this is the first big step in our offseason now. We promised that we were going to remake the club. This is the first big one. More to come, but we can't wait to get Chris to work to make us better for 2025.
Thanks, Garth. Thank you all for coming today. I'm tremendously excited for this opportunity. Atlanta United has been a club that I've watched from the initial expansion year, and they appear to have done everything right. I want to thank Arthur Blank for this opportunity. It's incredible to be in this training facility. The stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is one of the best in the world. So we have everything we need from a player and a competitive side to prepare to be a team that can be an elite team in this league. I'm really excited to get to work with Garth. We have a long history together. I understand his vision, his leadership style. There's a lot of really great people here that I've met in the first few days who are going to be tremendous to work with. And we're going to build something really special here, and I can't wait to get to work.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll go ahead and start with questions. Doug?
For both of y'all, you referenced the success you had in Seattle. Why did it work so well there, and why do you think it's going to work again here?
Yeah. Look, truly, I came in, and I think my addition to Seattle was a little bit of surprise internally there. Going back to Adrian Hanauer, who owns the Seattle team, he had been the general manager up until that point. And there was a separation in the organization as the Seahawks and the Sounders split into separate entities. And at that point, they decided they needed a little bit more help and brought me in. But the reality was that the year before I came, the Sounders won the Open Cup and the Supporter Shield in 2014. So I've always said I was the knucklehead who was like, oh, I'm definitely going to make this better. But this is I mean this sincerely. Like, Chris from day one was open to me and was said, hey, I'd love to have you aboard. I think we're going to work great together. And given his own success to that point, he definitely didn't have to do that. And so there was that trust, that the fact that he wanted to work with me, that always meant a lot to me, and that really was the beginning of a great relationship working together. And obviously, we made each other better over 6-7 years working together in Seattle. And now Chris has gone on and he's done the same thing in Miami, so he's had success on his own. I'd like to think Seattle remains successful even after Chris departed under my leadership. And so now I think it's pretty reasonable to think as we put them back together, I'm actually really excited to see how much Chris has evolved and how much Chris has grown beyond where we were together in Seattle. But I think we've had individual success, we've had collective success, and that's what gives me a lot of faith that we're going to have success together again this time.
Yeah, I would say there's some similarities with the two clubs. The connection with the fans, the connection in the community, I love that. And I think it's a great opportunity as we recruit players for them to understand what their role is. And I also like the ambition of both clubs. This is a club that has high expectations, wants to succeed, wants to win titles. And that's challenging as someone who can help build a team that has expectations from the fans and the club, and we're going to work hard to accomplish all the goals we set.
Felipe, just give your name and out here.
There we go. All right, Felipe Garnes with The Athletic. Welcome, Chris. Welcome to Atlanta. Question for Garth and then for Chris. Garth, can you just describe the process and when you landed on Chris? I mean, obviously you guys have history together, but when did you know this is the guy that you wanted in this position? And then Chris, what do you apply to in Atlanta United that you were effective doing in Miami, one of the most visible clubs now in MLS? You know the stars, the names that are there. What do you take away from that experience, and how will it help Atlanta United in the future?
Look, Felipe, in terms of timing, how we know, we interviewed a number of people. Some of that was just logistical in the sense that we had to have team seasons end before we could get permission to talk to their executives in a lot of cases. So that timing was kind of spread out. But look, given my track record with Chris, while it certainly wasn't clear if Chris was going to be available or not, at the time when he became available, then honestly he went to the top of the list, and we thought, hey, there might be an opportunity here. But certainly that was not known for a considerable period. And would like to say thank you to Miami for allowing Chris to leave. They were really gentlemanly about it, and really appreciate working that collegially across the league, and hopefully having a great opportunity going forward with me and Chris.
Hi, Felipe.
Just what do you apply from your experience in Miami? Everything from the restructuring of the roster, the sanctions, and then the success here at the end. What do you apply your history here in Atlanta United?
Yeah, there was a lot of lessons learned over the last 4 years. What I have found is there's many different ways to build a team, and there is different roster categories and mechanisms how you can sign players in the league, and you can be successful on a young team. You can be successful mixing veteran players with young players. I feel to have success in this league, you need to be able to have depth in each position. And that's going to be a focus is, you can have your starting group, but what happens when you have injuries? What happens when players get called up to international duty? You need to have those answers ready and give your coach and your coaching staff all the weapons they need to have success, because there's going to be ups and downs in a season. And to go through last season where we had an incredible regular season, and knowing that you need a team that can compete in multiple tournaments. Sometimes you have 2-3 different tournaments to go through during the season. So I'm really excited because we have 2 designated player spots open. There's huge potential for how we can build this team. We have a history of working together and with the staff, with Demetrius, with Jonathan, with Arjun, with the group that we have here. I think we have a lot of resources and really smart people who can help build a strong team.
Chris, welcome to Atlanta. Jose Prosopio from Latin Gold. Chris, with all your experience and that position, what would you consider a priority for Atlanta? The head coach first, or players that would come first?
Yeah, good question. Nice to meet you, Jose. I do think, yes, having a head coach in, there's been an extensive process that Garth has gone through. He's filled me in up to this point where we're at. I've had a chance to speak with the final candidates, so I do feel like the collaboration among the front office, the coaching staff is huge. The ideas on which direction you want to go in the club, how you want to use players, how you want to build a team. So I think that relationship's important, and then also being able to nail your DPs. You have important players on the team who are leaders of your team, who you expect to contribute and help your team and carry your team. So that combination of adding key players and then again adding depth and players who can compete every single day on the training field to bring the level up of the whole group. So I'm excited to get started and be able to look to have a team that can compete to win all trophies.
On the left, Joe, then Doug.
Hey, Chris. I'm Joe Patrick with 92.9 The Game and 5 Strike Final. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Atlanta. When it comes to a philosophy of working with the head coach, first of all, do you know who it is? Do you know who the head coach is going to be?
We don't know yet.
Okay. Well, in terms of the overall philosophy and how you establish a roster and build a roster alongside that coach, how closely do you work with them in terms of taking in what they have to say, their opinions on certain players, and just balancing all of that as you do your own job?
Yeah, I think the sporting director and head coach relationship is a key relationship within the club. I will travel with the team. I'm here to support the coaching staff to make sure that they have all the resources they need. And if there's issues and things they want to change, we have those discussions among our group and make sure that we can help solve any issues that the coaches have. I think understanding the coach's philosophy, again, it's been an extensive interview process, so there's a lot of alignment in the way that the team wants to play, the way the coach wants to play. But for me, it's all about collaboration. How can we use the resources behind the scenes to collaborate together? We're all one team and we're going the same direction. There's going to be ups and downs during the season, and it's about how we work together through those ups and downs. And that's about trust, that's about working together, but it's hard work. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us to build a championship team, and there's a lot of pieces that need to fall into place, so I can't wait for the coach to be part of that process.
Yeah, two questions, both for Chris. You talked about ambition. I'm curious, Miami's opening a new stadium. It's got the best player in the world, Club World Cup next year. Why leave Miami and what it's done and on the verge of doing for here? And number two, you saw a lot of Atlanta United at the end of last season. Is this team, with the roster as it is right now, more what you saw in the playoffs, or maybe more the team that struggled to even get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the first part with Miami, it's, it was 4 years there. There was obviously some challenges when I came in. Great organization, great ownership. They have tremendous players. Best player in the world is there. But for me, it was about this opportunity. It was about the potential and the ambition of Atlanta United, the potential for where we can take this club together. And I feel like it's a great working environment here. This is my second day here, but I love the people here, and I love the relationships that are forming here and the collaboration. So I think the opportunity and the support of Arthur Blank and the resources this club has and puts towards Atlanta United is something that is not common in MLS, and to have that kind of support from ownership is great for us as we go to build a winning team. Your second question?
Yeah, curious.
That's fine.
That's okay.
This roster as it is right now, is it more what you saw in the playoffs and knocking off Miami, or more the team that kind of struggled to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I see some good pieces here, and some pieces that are really good for building a roster. And I think if we can take that group, they obviously knocked us out in the first round of the playoffs, so you could see how that team came together. And I think those key pieces you can build on, and we want to add to that. We want to add some top-end, really high talent, and then fill in those pieces to complement those players. And it's about building off of those and then doing that at over 2-3 transfer windows.
Bailey Burmaster at the News First. I'm curious, with all of your experience and coming in as fresh eyes, where do you believe the biggest opportunity of growth is for this organization as a whole? Maybe just not, where you go on the roster, but the structure of that.
Yeah, great question. We've talked a lot about the roster and adding key pieces. But I'm excited about this new expansion, this $25 million expansion to the training facility, and what that can do for our second team and our academy. I think there's great opportunities here and to grow the club as a whole, and kind of take a one-club approach where there's a clear pathway for young talent to come through and be able to watch that first team spot, and how do I work my way in the next 5 years to be a starter for Atlanta United. So I love that growth and the ability to look at something long term, and we want to build something that's sustainable and consistently a winner. So I think that goes into the infrastructure, the planning, everything behind the scenes.
On the left, Tyler.
Hey, Chris. Tyler Pilgrim, Scarves and Spikes. I guess this is kind of for both of y'all, but can you just kind of describe for us and for the fans kind of what the working relationship between both of y'all will be as far as like responsibilities? And I think everybody's so used to kind of what it was before, and how kind of will that evolve going forward?
Look, we had a great partnership in Seattle, obviously in slightly different roles now. But look, Chris is going to be responsible for all aspects of the soccer side of the organization. You know, he is a chief soccer officer, and so he'll be responsible for picking the players. And again, we're going to do that in collaboration. You know, this is the great thing about this is because we've worked together before. There is no hierarchy. There is no idea that, hey, I'm going to go do this in a vacuum. We're going to be working with the coaching staff. We're going to be working with our data analysts. We're going to be working with our performance staff. We just added last week David Tenney, the guy who I think is the best sports performance scientist in the league. And Chris and I worked with him in Seattle as well. So really excited about building the leadership team as a whole and folks that have had some experience together so that we can move forward jointly and collaboratively. And we think that that's a real strength of ours going forward.
Back on the right, Felipe.
Garth, question for you. You mentioned remaking the club. You got Chris in, obviously the head coach is coming. Other than the TPs that will be added, what else is part of that plan in remaking the club? I think Chris just quickly, you're going from, again, a club with limited resources, as they say, to now another club that is known for its resources, but hasn't really had the success that runs parallel with that. Is that part of your job in trying to figure out the right equation and what success looks like at a club like Atlanta?
So Felipe, from to the leadership discussion, you know, we really have, we're about 3/4 of the way there now. So we in terms of remaking the club. So you start with about a year ago, a little bit more, Sarah Kate Knopfsinger coming in to run the business side of the organization. You have Javier Perez, who came in as director of methodology to run all the player development. That was about 6 months ago. Last week we added Dave Tenney as the head of the director of high performance. So he's going to run all the health and fitness and nutrition programs, psychological well-being, mental training, all that stuff for the entirety of the organization. Now we have Chris Henderson coming in to oversee everything on the soccer side, and you couple that with somebody like Demetrius, who's been here for about 2 years now. And if you look at the leadership of Atlanta United, literally every single position, including mine, is new. So when you talk about how are you remaking, how have you remade, we have brought in people with enormous experience across all these levels. Javier Perez wrote the curriculum for U.S. Soccer circa 2014, right? Chris has got almost 20 years of experience as a top-level executive in this league. Dave Tenney, 20 years of experience, worked in the NBA, now coming over here again. The guy who was head of the MLS Technology Committee. It's the guy that's arguably the best at his job in the league. Demetrius, 10 years of experience at the league office, plus 10 more years as a lawyer working in London, working abroad. Again, literally, you know, ran the chief soccer officer committee from the league side before coming here. So we believe we're getting the best of the best. And honestly, this is a reflection of Arthur Blank's commitment to what we do. Because when you bring in guys with this kind of experience at the tops of their careers, it's not cheap. And these are significant investments we made, but we believe by making these investments, this is where we can gain a competitive advantage, because there is no salary cap when it comes to executive talent. Yep, and then putting it together, and then it's my job to get everybody going the same direction. And look, the good news is we have some common threads between everybody, and we believe we're setting up to success. Now we need to add a head coach to that leadership group, and then hopefully we'll be off and running.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah.
Felipe, Felipe had the other.
Yeah, Felipe. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. So I do think, I'm thinking back to, I've been in this league since 1996. So, and I haven't missed a season. So to your question, how exciting it is to have clubs now with the resources that we have at Atlanta United. It's, when I think back to how we started this league, and Garth played in the league in the 90s as well, to how far we've come in a short period of time, it's exciting. For me, it's about what processes do we have in place. I'm about how we, what are the steps we take in the recruitment process, how we make decisions. When we do sign players, what's the story of that signing? Where do we start? What's the negotiation look like? What does the data analytics look like? And I think that's a collaboration. But I think it's really important in what we do to make sure you have a process to limit risk, to make sure we're adding the right pieces to have a competitive team.
Okay, go ahead.
Chris, Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Two-part question. One, it sounded like there's different maybe styles of play that you're interviewing coaches that is not yet determined, I guess, as far as what you want. So would it be accurate to say that you're not committed to a certain style of play, and maybe who you hire will inform like how you go about roster building? And then second, given what Garth had mentioned about bringing in a lot of people at the top of their careers with a lot of experience, should we expect that the head coach also will have that sort of background?
I would say to your second part, I think an experienced coach is important. I do think that coaches come in and they have their ideas of how they want to play, but sometimes that can change based on personnel, based on the opponent, based on where you are during the year, injuries, call-ups. So I think flexibility is important, adjustability, because those are the things that happen. If you're going to have success and want to win a supporter shield and want to have success in tournaments, you need to be able to adjust your lineup and find solutions, not only in-game, but week to week. So having a coach who has that experience, knows how to prepare teams, I think players should go into games with all of the details, everything they need to know what to do to win the game on the weekend. And then it's about execution, having the right players on the team who can execute the plan. So I think that combination has been successful in the history of this league, and we'd like to find a coach who can fit that.
Marcel, News Sports Inquirer. You mentioned the two designated DPs available. Have you established targets, and what are you looking for in a DP? And is there a timeline of when you want to introduce that, or do you want it to be tied into the head coach and we have interaction with that? Has that been part of the interview process? Some targets for DPs?
Yeah, I've had some meetings now the last 24 hours with the recruitment team. They're very organized. I think there's specific players. The work has been going on, and again, extensive work connected with data analytics and live scouting. So I think the club is in a really good place with several positions and targets. Yes, it would be great to have the coach involved in those decisions. That's another process that needs to take to get to the finish line. And then, yes, you want a coach who's on board with the player signings and understands kind of the way we want to play, adding these talented players into the team. And then it's about, when we do get the team, it's about gelling together. Get into training camp, play some games together. That part takes a little bit of time too. You have a new sporting director, you have a new coach, you have a new performance director. It's about gelling all of these as quickly as we can, so we can work together to build a strong team when the season starts.
We're going back to Jason. Jason, go ahead.
Jason Longshore, 92.9 The Game, and the SDH Network. Chris, welcome to Atlanta. I wanted to ask you guys about your partnership and how a lot of times partnership, collaboration, you guys complement one another well. So I'd like to ask both of you to answer. Garth, what does Chris bring to the table that maybe was missing from the club and helps you be better at what you do? And then same for you, Chris. What does Garth bring that makes you better at your job?
Jason, I think from day one, I have maybe an executive skill set. I'm trained as a lawyer. I tend to think very linearly and maybe get bogged down in logic sometimes. But I'm very process oriented. Chris is, again, I think the best talent evaluator in the league. So again, different skill sets. And it's, I'm making it overly simple there because, to be clear, I think there's some good overlap where we collaborate on a number of things. But if you want to break it down really in the basics, Chris has an incredible eye for talent. Young players, old players, again, he's built different teams and different models across different clubs. And I think that type of flexibility and experience, that all ladders up to Chris as a proven winner. And so I think, you take our two skill sets and you add Chris's track record and you say, hey, proven winner, we've been adding proven winners across all these departments. That's going to drive the club forward.
Yeah, and I would echo what Garth said about being a winner. Garth's a winner as well. He's done it at a smaller club in Salt Lake. He's done it in Seattle. and we're going to do it here in Atlanta. So I do feel like Garth sometimes will come at a different perspective, and sometimes I'll see things in a different way because of what Garth brings to it. He's very direct, which I prefer. And yeah, we've been able to set goals together, accomplish those. He's a great, away from work too, he's a great family man and very close friend of mine. So there is something being able to work with a friend and have success together.
Time for two more, Joe, and then David. Joe, go ahead.
Right, Chris. To get into the weeds on some of these roster mechanisms and ways of acquiring players, the U22s, people are very interested in this. We've heard a little bit from Garth about it, but what is your general philosophy on how these types of players can impact an MLS roster, and how much should be expected of them coming into teams to be able to help?
Yeah, I've seen throughout the league different U22 players. Some have succeeded, some haven't. I can talk about my last couple of years in the league. We had some young U22s, but we also balanced it with veteran players. So I think you can have success if the veteran players understand these young players coming through and invest in them, and understand that sometimes there's a transition period at that age to go live in a new country and adjust. There's many things outside the club where you have to adjust to the life and the lifestyle. Maybe it's language, maybe it's the travel. This is a different league than any league in the world with the things we have, the time zones, the travel. So there is a big adjustment period, but there needs to be full investment from the club, the coaching staff, the veteran players, helping them acclimate. And then I think you can have success with those players if they have the right talent and the right ambition. So we have to be very selective in U22s that are added if they're going to succeed and help the team.
Last one here, David.
Sports culture of today is very interesting. Everyone wants success now. You don't have any leaders who everyone's going to have success. You're a businessman, you're logistical. What is the timetable you're giving to the machine to find success consistently?
Look, thank you so much for that question, because it tees up one of the things that I've been dying to talk to you all about, and I think going to make some of the people here smile. I have said from day one that I may frustrate you by how deliberate I am in making some of these decisions. But Chris Henderson was not available until very, very recently. David Tenney was not available until very recently. We are going to go get the best head coach we possibly can. Hopefully that's done in the next couple of weeks. But we are going to be deliberate about getting the best person we can. And so what I will say is, look, do I think it's going to come together and gel relatively quickly the next couple of transfer windows? I do. Certainly that's our goal, that's our ambition. We missed the playoffs the year before I arrived. We made the playoffs in year one. We won a round in year two. Now we need to use that as the floor going forward. That's the minimum expectation for this group as we try to mold now a legitimate championship contender. And as we do that, then we're going to make that sustainable. So another cliche of mine, once it gets fixed, it stays fixed. So we believe we're getting the best leaders in places across the organization for that sustained success. So there's both no rush and a whole great big rush in the sense of we're going to build off of this year and take what was one game that felt really good. 70,000 people in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, game 2 against Miami, knocking off the #1 seed. Felt good, but man, we had to go through some heartache to get there. And I'd love to have some more sustained success, and I believe we're building toward that, certainly with Chris's addition today.
All right, thanks everyone.